Morning.
Hello, we are, we have quorum, Chair. We have Director Mack in person, committee member Ramsden and yourself. So if I'll turn it over to you.
You're muted, Mike.
Thank you. Are we recording? Are we good to go on that? Okay. And I will call to order this special meeting of the Pembroke Valley Utilities Services for March 21st. And we would like to recognize that this meeting is being held on the traditional territory of the Lillooet Nation. Any amendments to the agenda or move as presented? And moved by Director Mack, second by Director Ramsden. Any opposed? Motion carries. Would somebody like to move the consent agenda? Director Mack, second by Director Ramsden. Any opposed? Motion carries. We're on to 4.1 CAO verbal report from the SLRD. Mr. Dalton.
Nothing, thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Do we have anything from the village? Seeing none, we will go right to the main event, which is 4.3, the fire budget. And I will pass it over to Thomas.
Thank you very much. Yeah, wanted to just provide an update today in coordination with Ms. LaFrance about the proposed adjustment and update for the 2023 rescue budget. Want to highlight that we revisited the service levels and some of the demand, which has changed over the last number of years, and noted that there's been a shift in the proportion of calls from a higher share of fire to rescue. The split used to be approximately 75-25, and we've seen that ratio of rescue calls has approached and slightly surpassed the 50% mark. So with that as the largest catalyst, we've proposed some adjustments which were reviewed at the fire committee and reflected that in the budget, mainly affecting the labor split. If it's all right, perhaps I could ask Ms. LaFrance to elaborate on some of the details there and gain the committee's support or the board's support.
Yeah, Chair.
Go ahead.
Yeah, could I just ask Thomas a question on one thing he said? If that's okay?
Of course, go ahead.
Hey, so you mentioned that the rescue calls are kind of now getting equal or closer to the fire calls so 50-50. So how many, what I'd like to know is how many medical calls are we responding, or are you responding to in Lillooet, so on the reserve property, as compared to the rest of Area C? Because I know in past there was an awful lot of medical calls to the reserve, and now that they are contributing to the budget function, whatever, I'd just like to know what that number is, so that it's not just everything outside of the village is all included as a number, right?
Yeah, I wouldn't have that data in front of me today. It's something that we could produce and work with the chief to provide you, but I don't have that with me today.
Okay, yeah, I would appreciate that, because I think that might be quite interesting. But it would be nice to know where, where the calls are taking place, and how many medical calls there is. I guess you could throw in MVAs or MVIs as well. But anyways, and the rescue calls, how many are there and where are they in the area?
Okay, yeah, I can certainly work with the chief and get those numbers too.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'll go through the taxation impact of this rescue service budget. I put through, maybe I'll share my screen just so you can see what I'm looking at. So this top service here is the one we're looking at. We haven't approved this service yet. All the other services we have approved and, well, ask the board for approval. And so this new service does have a 129% increase due to the shift of the 50-50 spread. So previously, like Thomas mentioned, this was 25-75, 25 being the permanent fire rescue service, and then 75 being the Area C specific fire protection services. They're all under one contract, and the Village of Pemberton performs that contract. With the split, the small fire services, which are the Pemberton Fringe, the Pemberton Meadows, and the Pemberton Heights services, they have less of a piece of the cost now. So the majority of the cost shift went to the service permanent fire rescue due to what Thomas was mentioning, the call volumes for permanent fire rescue. So this service does show a tax rate increase for $13 for every $500,000 assessment. So $1 million property does pay $56.40 for this service in 2023. Overall, the PVUS services outlook for 2023, they would, at $1 million property, would pay about $873, sorry. Is it Monday? For these services.
And that number is for all the services?
That's for all the services, $873 for all these services on $1 million assessment, residential assessment. So
Thank
for
you.
reference, in 2021, $1 million house paid $920 for reference. Of course, the assessments have shifted. $1 million isn't quite $1 million anymore, so it's really hard to portray that portion of it. But another piece of this puzzle is Area C and the Village of Pemberton have new inventory, about 25%, I believe it was. It was previously on these PVUS budget sheets. I just removed it because we're only talking about one service today, but it was 26% non-market change, I believe. So a lot of, I would say, you could say 26% of the increase would be absorbed by new inventory. But that's an estimate as well.
Any questions?
Yeah, I guess, Chair. Yeah, it's just, I'm just having a hard time wrapping my head around those large numbers and how to explain that when people ask, because they're going to come back and say, you know, geez, my increase was 129%. How does that work? So there's there's got to be a way to explain this other than to say, well, we've gone to a different funding model. Because they're going to say, well, no matter what the funding model is, what's my increase? So that's where I'm stuck with this because people read this, they're going to be as challenged as I am. So anyways, the more you can clarify, Suzanne and Thomas, the better.
Yeah, realistically though, the cost of the service is pretty low. So for the whole service, $1 million home last year was $30. And now this year is $56 for the rescue service. Whether that's going to be unexpected by the constituents, it's hard to guess, but really even cutting this back is not going to be much of a difference. You know what I'm saying? Like it's not where you're going to save a lot of money for your constituents.
No, but so then having explained it that way, that's what I would like to see somewhere, like say under this PVUS services requisition review, have a line in there stating what you just said, that last year was this much, and with this new formula, it's only gone up to this much. So the 129.1% is really irrelevant or whatever. It's just, it's going up 20 some odd dollars over last year. That's what I would like to see, how it's explained so that people can understand that. And they're looking at, okay, it's going to cost, an extra $20 a year for this service, the way this is laid out. Then that's explainable. I mean, well, you might not even have to explain it. They read that and they go, oh, okay, I understand that. That's fine.
Yeah, I think
Is that possible?
I think the percentage column it can be misleading when we're either in this case changing the formula or adding all new elements to the service. I remember thinking about that or talking about it when we talked about recreation. We're paying a good little chunk more in maintenance and recreation, not because we're charging that much more to maintain, let's say, one soccer field, but now there's 2 soccer fields and a skills park. And the percentage, is misleading a little bit that way. So I think 129% it throws you off right off. When you look at the actual numbers, $56 for fire rescue service for 12 months is a pretty good rate, I think, when you look at it that way. And to Russell's point, you look at last year's PVUS service and the year before, well, we're in a decent place. So I think the percentage can be misleading. Yeah, I guess I don't know how you present it, but I to Russell's point, just splitting it out to show people that, this is what they paid, this is what they're paying now. The increase is minimal, and their overall bill is actually almost flat.
If I may as well, the chief and staff here really endeavored to keep the costs low. When we look at the entire service, the fire and rescue budget, there were nominal increases to the total budget, but this rescue primarily is driven by increased activity for rescue. So it's the volunteer firefighters who are paid a nominal wage that are going out and working hard and responding to calls. And as the population growth has driven some of that increase over time, that becomes a factor when looking at this number. The other thing I would highlight included in that rescue budget is there is a one-time or irregular capital expense. It's to replace a hydraulic pump on the Rescue 1 truck for $15,000, and the fire services really tried to extend the useful life of equipment and maintain as best as they can, but that produces a little bit of an increase relative to a regular year as well.
So, Chair, just for Thomas, Yeah, I understand all that, and that's perfectly fine, but the most important thing is. I'd like to really find out, and it's important, where the call volume is. Because I'd like to know how many calls are up the meadows and throughout area C. And I want to know how many calls, medical calls, MBI calls, rescue type calls are on the reserve properties. Just to give me an idea of, you know, is it 50% of rescue calls are there, or 10%, or whatever? Because then that going forward, I'll have a better idea of, you know, how I'm thinking about this whole program. So that's important to get that done. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
Another thing I just want to mention is, you know, this service is split by assessment between the two members, which is Village of Pemberton and Area C. You can see the split has changed quite a bit now that the assessment shifts have happened. So new inventory and as well as market shifts. So Village of Pemberton does take on more of the cost versus previous year. So realistically, Area C's portion is more of a 100% increase, and you know, Village of Pemberton looks like more of 126. Like they have more of the majority because of the new inventory in the Village of Pemberton. So there's always that factor too that changes the costing between the partners.
So we just need that explained too, because that's part of the rationale or the explanation that people are going to need, so that they can look at it and say, okay, that's justified, or I can understand that. But when you just throw a big number out there, and that's the first thing they see, that's the only thing they see, and then they start thinking, oh my God. But if there's rationale to go with it, and you've explained that, then that's really good. So we just need that somehow in this, you know, on this page, just so that people can see exactly what and why we're doing it.
I can add some items to this sheet that will show up in the financial plan, just under items of significance, just letting them know those details.
Yeah, thank you. That would be wonderful.
So my question was, there was a meeting a week or so ago with the fire and search and rescue folks.
Not search and rescue.
Yeah, that would search and rescue wasn't there.
No.
Okay.
It's a separate.
That was a separate.
They're a separate entity. Yeah.
Okay.
They have a separate budget.
So the meeting didn't go on with the search and rescue folks.
Not with search and rescue, but we did have a meeting with Thomas and Suzanne on the fire issue. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So that's what we're.
Pemberton Fire Rescue is what you're thinking of, Jen.
Yeah.
Okay.
Are there any other questions, or where are we at? Thomas, did you have more to present?
No, unless there's anything that there's interest in or that anyone would like to explore in more depth.
Any more questions, or would somebody like to pass this budget?
I'll move it with the added information added to this. Like Suzanne's gonna just put some extra information in there so people can understand what's going on in sort of plain English. So that would be fine.
Yeah. So moved by Director Mout. Go ahead, Kristen.
So if that would be more of the budget approval is a recommendation to the board.
Yeah.
If you want that formalized in a resolution, that's probably not a recommendation to the board, just a resolution.
I would like that to go to the board too, that explanation, just so that when they look at it, or if I say something about, you know, the 129.1%, they know exactly what is going on too. So the explanation is there for them. So if that information could be added to this, I guess before tomorrow. Because it goes to the board tomorrow.
No, it goes a week.
Oh, in a week?
Correct.
Okay.
This is going as part of the
The special.
special meeting, correct?
Oh, yeah, at the end of the month. Okay, great.
So I believe the information you're looking for will be part of the staff report that Suzanne brings to the special meeting.
Yeah, okay,
Yeah,
that's good.
that's right.
Yeah, thank you.
Would you want a separate resolution, which we would not be a recommendation to the board, just be direction to staff to add those details?
Yes.
I think Suzanne's got it. Yeah, you want to put that in motion? Okay, first of all, let's call the first button. Oh, go ahead, Thomas.
Yeah, may I ask one question just for clarification? In that commentary that you're looking for, Director Mack, would it be appropriate at a very high level to just highlight that this is not a standalone service, the rescue service? It is a function of the fire rescue service, and there are some contractual commitments and obligations that help define some of this accounting. Is that helpful context to the audience that you're looking for this clarification around? I mean, a lot of the changes that are perhaps larger in percentages are offset in other facets of the shared service, but obviously the complications of the contract make that a little bit harder to see without the bigger picture. Would just that some language that simply puts that this shared service didn't go up by 129% and that it is effectively just sharing a different look at the same larger pie? Would that be helpful? Something to that degree, if we tidied up the language?
Actually, I think that'll be more confusing. So I think we just keep the statement as Suzanne had said, and just keep it as simple as possible. Just so when somebody looks at it, they go, yeah, okay, I understand that, and that's it. But if we start going in depth into saying what the contract is, how the contract's laid out, that's just going to confuse people even more. So we'll just keep it as simple as possible, and I think that'll be just fine.
Just, sorry, comment or clarification. Thomas, are you basically saying maybe we're looking at a statement saying, look, the whole pie, which is the combined services, that hasn't changed by 129%. It's gone up by X percentage. I can't recall what it is, but what's the significant change you're seeing here is that, instead of this area paying for 25%, it's now paying 50%. So just because I could see the concern that some constituents might look at this and go, wow, our fire rescue services across the board have gone up by, the cost has gone up by 129%, where that might not actually be true. So I don't know if that's what you were saying.
Yeah, essentially.
Yeah, because I do take your point that, getting into the details about the contracts and stuff like that.
We don't need any of that. I think we just need to keep it as simple as possible.
Yeah, but if there might be something in the sentence and saying, total cost is this, it's gone up by this much percent by 2023. However, the split, you're now paying for a larger chunk of the pie. I don't know if that would be a simpler way, but it could be useful.
I think we've got good direction for staff to include some clarification on there so people understand how we've gotten there. I don't know. I think I'm comfortable letting you guys go put that together and leave it at that.
Yeah, so I moved it.
So right now we're moving the motion is for approval of the budget as presented, moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any further discussion on the budget? Any opposed? Motion carries. And then another motion from Director Mack to have staff include in the budget version being presented to the board and to the public more detail on previous PVUS taxes or costs. And breakdown on the fire rescue increase. Is that a representative of your motion there, Director Mack?
That's good.
Moved by Russell, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, thanks to you guys, Suzanne, Thomas, appreciate it. That was it. So decision on late business, we have none. Director's notice of motion. Motion to adjourn. Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Ramsden. Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.